And we are live. What is up, ladies and gentlemen? I am the Law, Ray Ramundo, and we are back with another edition of the Laws Roundtable. This is episode 6, and I am joined by a very, very, very special guest. He is the zombie princess himself, Jimmy Jacobs. How are you doing, sir?
I'm fantastic. Episode number 6. Huh?
Yep.
How have the first 5 been?
They've been interesting. They've been interesting. Bunch of episodes, been having great conversations, learning a lot. Got to have Steve Monster Mac on as well, and I love getting to pick the brains of you guys a little bit when I'm doing this.
Great, yeah, Mac's a great dude.
Yeah, awesome. But again, thank you so much for joining me. Glad I was able to talk to you and get to have this done. This should be interesting. So.
All right, yeah, I'm always happy to have a chat.
Awesome. So first thing I have to start it off with is, how are you doing? We're still in the midst of this crazy thing called a pandemic, so how's everything been?
This past year, 2020 was one of the best years of my life. I don't allow my reality to be dictated to by what they tell me it is on a TV screen or a computer screen or a phone screen. When I go out into the world, I see happy and a lot of healthy people. At least my friends and family are healthy, and I'm a person that after 37 years I'm finally learning how to take care of myself, my body, mind, and soul, or even spirit. So that's something that I think is important for everybody. That's one of the shining things that this past year has really came forward to me is learning about what health is and what causes illness, and how to give my body what it needs to do what the body does, which is heal itself, and learning to work in communion with that and not work against it.
Got you. Awesome. I again, that's why when I spoke to you the first time, I was like, I love your perspective on everything, because you definitely have a great outlook and positive outlook on a lot of things. And I definitely agree with that nature, because I feel like when we allow these things to get us down and put us down, it just leads on a despair of just a low road. So I definitely agree with what you're saying and keeping that up with all this.
I mean, absolutely, it can be. And it's not to say never get down. Get down if you feel like you need to. And sometimes, we're run mostly by our subconscious. So sometimes your subconscious wants to bring you down. And when that happens, for me, it's important to stop and listen to my body and listen to my inner knowing to go, okay, why the down feelings? Why the feelings of lethargy, or why the feelings of anger, or why the feelings of sadness? What are these emotions trying to tell me? Instead of, trying to work against myself or against my emotions, to go, okay, anger is coming up. What is this thing? What is this, to me, things like anger or fear or sadness a lot of times are, it's like a compass. Our emotions are like a compass. And if we can start to understand why we feel these things, what is this anger? Oh, this anger is because, generally it comes down to this. The external world doesn't meet my internal desires. That's what anger ends up being when you really break it down most of the time. So you go, okay, so why do I think that the external world should somehow reflect or meet my internal desires? That's unrealistic. And so if every time that happens, things don't go the way I want them to go, I experience anger. Well, if that's the case, then the outside world's going to have a whole lot of control over my emotions. That's outsourcing my power to external events. My experience being contingent on what something else, what somebody else does, or how something else happens. And so to me, it's, looking at the feelings, feeling the feelings, but examining, what are you trying to say to me, feelings? And as we start to know ourselves, we can start to have better, self-mastery.
Awesome, awesome. It's funny when I remember I used to listen to your podcast, Jimmy Doesn't Know, and I think it was called Jimmy Doesn't Know, but you definitely know a lot about the subconscious and thinking about all these internal feelings that are external. We reveal it externally. We show it through our facial reactions, through our movement and everything like that. And it's very, it's interesting to hear your thoughts on this. Definitely.
Well, yeah, the last 4.5 years of my life, this has been the journey for
Yeah.
me. I spent the first 33 years of my life, playing the game on the outside world, chasing something on the outside, going, oh, as soon as I get this, then things will be good, And look, it was great, when I got the call to, come and work for WWE, one of the most emotionally charged, moments of my life. But pretty soon, the thing that you go, oh, everything. Oh, now I'm just me, but someplace else. And as I climbed, this external mountain, you climb and you go further and you go further, and you go, well, what's on the other? What's at the top here? And you go, it's just me. It's just going to be me here. That's the only thing. Wherever you are, there you are. So if you think that something else is going to make you happy, or something else is going to fulfill you, or be the thing that you're looking for, once you get it, it's just going to be you there,
yeah.
But with it. That's it. But it's you. So you realize you are the constant of this reality. So really the game, instead of looking at it as an external thing where I'm a dog chasing its tail, that's all it will be. You can spend your whole life looking out here for things, your whole life, and you'll be a dog chasing its tail until you stop and go, wait a minute, the tail's on me. This is my tail, and I'm just playing a game where I'm just chasing myself. I'm the one that is setting the rules of saying, I'll be happy once I get a job with WWE. I'll feel fulfilled once I have a family. I'll be grateful once I have more money. I'm the one setting those rules. So if I'm the one setting those rules, I can create new rules. I can say, I can be grateful just because I woke up this morning. I can be happy walking outside and smelling the fresh air. I can feel complete because I know the wholeness that exists inside of me, which exists inside of all of us. I can make those rules. I don't have to play a game of fetch with myself and throw the ball over there and go, oh, that looks like that landed, somewhere behind, get a raise, and then chase that ball and, oh, I got a raise, yay! Now I got it. Now I'm happy. You don't have to play that game with yourself. You can decide your experience.
Yeah, that's definitely interesting. I have to ask though. Again, like you mentioned, it's been a 37-year journey. When did that start to click? When did you start to realize you could make those rules for yourself? Because this isn't something that just comes, I can imagine.
No, it was a process over the last 4.5 years. 4.5 years, I got the really the blessing to go to rehab. And more than anything with drugs, I knew it wasn't about the drugs. It's not about the drugs as such. It's about how one uses something like that and why they use something like that, which is, I can go into that, but whatever. Really, it was, for me, what rehab did for me more than anything was it just broke me out of the story I was in.
Yeah.
Look, we're all living in a story. We're all living in this reality, and we think it's so real. We think all the drama going on in our life, and this is important and that's important. I'm caught up with this, and I keep running on this hamster wheel and going, oh, great, get this, be around this person, do this, grab this, hey, you love, all this sort of stuff. What rehab did for me, and I've said this before, I think everybody should be allowed to just pull in case of emergency, leave for 30 days, where nobody's allowed to contact you, nobody's allowed to bother you, and it's just you. And you concentrating and dealing with you exclusively. And that was the turning point for me. It wasn't until probably at some point last year, maybe 2 years ago, where I really started to conceptualize the reality that all my problems are inside of me. probably about 2 years ago. Yeah, all my problems are inside of me. All my solutions are inside of me as well. And that realization is more freeing than anything else. I know that anytime that I experience anger after I see something in the outside world or I experience something out here, I know that I'm the one that created the anger. There's no finger to point. Oh, this guy was a real jerk. Like, there's none of that. I don't have to do that. For me, anybody can act however they want to act, and it's my reaction that I get to control. You know, if somebody's a jerk, that's their business. How I react to it, that's my business. And going on the journey of learning to master myself, understand myself, why I have certain reactions to certain things, understanding that becomes a way to have more of the internal experiences that I want to have, as opposed to anger or anything that we consider negative. I don't need to spend so much time in those states.
Yeah. No, that's definitely, again, like, as someone that's definitely started to change my mindset on those kind of things and start to open that up more, just because I feel like, again, life's also too short to allow certain things to overtake us and get to that mentality. And I even posted something yesterday about trying to find that happiness and going into myself and finding what it is that I need to leave in the past and stuff like that. So it was perfect timing to have this episode today, because I started seeing, as time goes, it's like certain things aren't as important and aren't as necessary to put all your time in, if you could say.
Absolutely. And you're the one that gets to determine what's important to you. You know, if you're spending all your time, upset about your ex, well, then that's important to you. And then the question is, well, why is this important to you? What's going on in here that I can't let go of the past, or I feel like I can't let go of the past? I'm getting some reward for hanging on to this past. And really, everything that we try to cling to on the external world, really it's just a reflection of what we need to give ourselves. So if I but she loved me so much, the truth is, you need to give the love to yourself. That love doesn't need to come externally. It really primarily needs to come from the inside. That way you're not trying to, grab love from somebody, take it from somebody. I have love. I am love. I can give love. I can give as much as I want, because I'll never run out, because that is the nature of what I am. So it's really, for me, it was so freeing coming to this, really an extreme view of going, I'm not a victim to freaking anything. I am a victim to nothing. That doesn't mean I won't play the victim game sometimes and point fingers and complain about, what this guy did. And of course, we all do. But I know I'm playing that game, and I know it's just a game. I know it has nothing to do with anybody else and everything to do with me. I understand that now, and that is so freeing. So anytime somebody's like, oh, why are you mad? The answer is never because of what somebody else did or something that happened. It's my relationship to it that is creating the experience of anger inside.
Got you. Again, that's great to hear. I have to also ask, especially now, again, like we said, with everything going on, though, have you gotten a chance to watch the current product in wrestling and your take on how their take on it, on how they're allowing themselves to get through this?
I don't watch a whole ton of wrestling outside of the show that I write for Impact Wrestling.
Yeah.
On Thursday nights at 8 p.m. Eastern on Access Television, but Access TV. So I don't see a ton. I watched CM Punk's return to wrestling on Rampage, and I thought that was what a moment. It was amazing, seeing that crowd reaction and welcome home, not just in Chicago but home to the wrestling ring, and that was great. What I saw over the last year, without having live audience. I saw, WWE, and AEW dip more into the cinematic matches, which, for a while Impact kind of had this sort of exclusive grass spot. And
Definitely, yeah.
Then, these different companies had to pull some new tricks out of the bag and think outside of the box that they normally like to play in. And we did as well. We did some different things like Wrestle House last year with, not having an audience and just sort of wanting to change locations and do something different than what we normally do. But I don't see a ton. I watched a little bit of WrestleMania to see Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens wrestle. Just how amazing those guys started together, and there they are, like 20 years later, doing it at WrestleMania. It's like, hell yeah, guys! Who else does that?
Yeah, it's an amazing story. But it's great how you bring up again the having to go outside of the box, and I feel like this is something I wanted to bring up with you. You were big into, especially with your career, imagery was always important. One of my favorite moments, I have to say, from yours was in 2007 when The Age of the Fall debuts. That imagery there, I feel like it's iconic when you remember just the suit, how it gets drenched in blood. So your thoughts on that importance of having to make imagery and make it mean something. So it is a lasting moment like that can be talked about. It's years later and we're still talking about it.
Yeah, it's interesting you bring that up. That angle we did where we hung Jay Briscoe at the debut of The Age of the Fall, it was such a learning experience for me. I pictured this. We had built up, the debut of this faction with a viral marketing campaign online called Project 161, and we had built it up for months. And I thought I needed to give the audience this explanation they had been waiting for so long. When people look back at it, it had nothing to do with the promo. I sat there and talked freaking 5 minutes, and I look back and I go, you dummy. If I could go back, I would have just stood there, and said one line and left. But that was a learning experience for me. I'm somebody that has, made my career now through the use of, words.
Yeah.
Promos in WWE, and now doing creative in Impact. But the imagery is, you think about, what was it, Vince McMahon and Shawn Michaels, or maybe it was Hulk Hogan at WrestleMania, where Vince is ringside, he's underneath the apron, he just pops his head up, and he has this look on his face. These are the things that people remember. These moments. Wrestling is filled with moments. So at its finest, when a performer goes out there, I would say it behooves them to think, what is the moment I want to leave these people? What do I want them feeling at the end? Or what's the one out of this, 15 minutes we're going to be out there, 10 minutes they're going to be out there, or even if you're going to be out there for 5 minutes, what's the one thing I want them to remember out of all this? Even when I started wrestling, I was 15 years old and really young, and I looked young. And so I came out on a pogo stick. I was jumping Jimmy Jacobs. And I thought, no matter what, at the end of the night, you'll remember the guy in the pogo stick. And so it's about leaving some sort of lasting impression on the audience with everything you do.
Definitely. Like I said, that moment, one of those, your promo style was definitely something on me that it just, as a student of the game, I would love to just break down your promos and watch, and it left something on me. And I feel like that's what a lot of people try to do, is get to that moment. And I feel like definitely as a writer now, I can imagine you're trying to convey that message as well, to make those lasting moments and make that story be told, if I'm not mistaken there.
Yeah, we try to. It's difficult sometimes.
Yeah.
It's a lot different for me now than when I was wrestling, or even writing in WWE, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
When I was wrestling, it's look, at Ring of Honor, we're doing a couple shows a month, or 4 shows at the most, maybe, and and it's just me I have to worry about. So I'm singly minded in that,
Yeah.
right? And so I put all my care on just me with 4 shows a month or 2 shows a month, and that's it. And even in WWE, I work like with, let's say Chris Jericho and Kevin Owens. I work with them a lot, and so I could be more focused on that. But I also had other wrestlers and other segments and whatnot. With Impact, my job is a little bit different in that I've got a lot of talent. I got 60, 70 wrestlers, and if we shoot, let's say 6 weeks of TV at a time, so it's like 6 weeks with 60 wrestlers and 9 segments a show, and whatever. I'm juggling, doing 8 matches pay per view, but 10 stories on TV. Like I'm juggling all these different components, and I'm seeing how the big picture plays out in all of it. So nowadays, I don't have the luxury to be so singly minded with every one thing, best, most memorable thing possible, and which is why I always recommend to wrestlers to always have their own ideas and always have things up their sleeves and in their back pocket to, a lot of times what I do now is come up with a framework for the talent to work inside of. So if I'm giving them the bones, they have to put the meat to it. Or if I give them the body, they have to bring their souls into it. So it always behooves a performer to have all sorts of ideas. And look, maybe none of them get used, but it's always better to have what you think something should be, and you don't need to, plant your flag in the ground that says it has to be this way, but always have that in your mind. If it were me, what would I do? If I could have my way, how would I do it? And you'll find a lot of times, at least in Impact, we're absolutely open to talent, to talent's ideas, and even in WWE to an extent, they were.
Yeah. No, it's refreshing to hear and definitely reassuring that, again, I'm a big fan of Impact Wrestling as well, and I've always noticed that you can see the workers are somewhat pulling off what they would like to do. Like you can tell they're into the character they're playing or into the gimmick that they're portraying and putting out to the world. So I love to hear that you guys are open to ideas. And again, even if it's not just to a T what was said, it's something at least being heard and maybe worked around. So that's awesome to hear.
My philosophy with creative is mostly, and it's not always the case, but mostly it's use the least force necessary.
Yeah.
Like the less I have to do, the better, because I'm never going to be somebody else's character better than they are. So if I can give them the framework and just sit back, all the better. Now, if they need me to come up with words, I can come up with words as well, but the less I have to do, the better, so the more of them can be inside the character on television.
Awesome. And this is a story I wanted to talk about a little more with you, because I've heard you tell it once or twice before, but especially with your own character. That again, I called you at the start of it the Zombie Princess. Can you talk to us a little bit more about how that was made and how that was created?
Yeah, I had a friend back in 2005, and she used to jokingly call me Princess. Yeah. And it's like, whatever you want, Princess, because it's probably a bit of what I was in 2005. I wanted things my way, that's for sure. And she used to call me Princess, and I liked the name, and I'd wanted to use it on some level for a while, and I worked it into a promo. I was working with Kevin Owens, and he had made fun of the way I dressed or looked or the makeup I wore, and I, said something like, I don't need to dress tough or look tough or even talk tough. I am tough. If I want to put on a tutu and tiara, call myself a princess, I'll still be the toughest guy in the room, because just when you think I'm dead, I come back to life like a zombie. So you get your ass handed to you by the zombie princess. It was something like that. And I just wanted something sort of off the wall and the idea, partly is, yeah, man, I can put on makeup, I can seem effeminate, but I'll also rip your face off. I'll also stab you in the eyeball with an 8-inch nail. So watch out. And there's always interest in characters that have some sort of dichotomy. Yeah. You look one way, but then present another way, or talk one way, but then act a different way. And those are more interesting characters, right?
Yeah. No, definitely so. And again, like even the graphic I keep showing here, like that, just that image of you for one of your t-shirts, I believe, having that blood on your face, having the nail right there, and your eye kind of taken out there. It's just, again, it's that imagery. It shows like, hey, this is something you'd probably do to somebody, and go to war with someone and do this. And again, it always stuck with me. Like, and when I heard the story the first time, I'm like, okay, it makes more sense now. It starts to build, and I'm like, okay. And I remember the promo. I looked back for it with your feud with Kevin Steen at the time, and it's like, okay, they really had something there, and it's engaging. It brings you in, and
yeah, that's always the goal, right? Yeah. And if nothing else, I mean, look, if I could start my wrestling career all over, I'd probably just call myself, Princess, like Prince,
yeah.
Prince but Princess, and that's it. Back in '99, more people were using alliteration and first name, last names, and things like that. But I see names now, like I see these freaking names at NXT, and I can't tell one from the other. They're all like semi-different, first names, like Trayden Marshall or so. It's like I don't, Trayden Marshall. Okay, I think I just made that up, but who knows? Names. But they're all kind of like that. They're all like, they kind of sound like a real first name, but they're changed just a little bit, and then like a generic last name.
No,
whatever. Give me Sting or B-Boy or Sandman. Just give me something that's a little that pops. And so yeah, if I could do my career over again, I think I'd just be Princess. That's it, full stop.
There you go. Well then, but I think you're definitely on the nail. It feels like a lot of times it's like a video game, just a randomized, like, okay, let's see what works today. Okay, these two names, mash them together. And it's like, it's
right.
Not even near what they would do on the independent circuit or anything like that. It's like, okay, I guess that's the name for today.
Not that every name needs to be unique. Yeah. Look, John Cena. Like, you're picking a name, John Cena. It's like the most generic name ever, but it's John Cena. Yeah. And at the same token, a name like Sting sounds like if you just stop and go, yeah, you're going to be Sting. You're like, what? Like a bee sting? What do you mean Sting? It sounds awful, but then it's like, oh, that's Sting. And so a name is one of the tools you can use to paint the picture of who you are, right? It's one of the tools, and I think, nowadays there's the fad they have going on like that. Like I said, years ago, people used more, alliteration, like Jimmy Jacobs or whatever. There was a while where it was like generic first name and then like a noun or a descriptor of a last name, like whatever, JT Lightning or Tim Storm. Like those things were more commonplace. And yeah, so everything goes through its fads and phases.
No, definitely. And I think that's where, like, for the name I created for this, like Ray Raimundo, I was based off that, like that alliteration of like, okay, two things that kind of roll off the tongue there. Like, and it definitely does work. And again, hey, as long as they can at least create something that doesn't just make it like a generic name. If they can make something that makes it stick, then at least.
Well, like I said, even generic, it's like, it's only generic until the name catches on, right? Until you're like John Cena, you never make money as John Cena until it's like, it's John Cena. Who cares?
Hey, years later, and the reaction he got for a return and his last match, it's like, Yeah, it's something there.
Freaking love
Yeah,
that.
it's amazing. But let's talk a little bit about you. You're coming back to, I'm not sure if it's to compete yet because it wasn't announced if you're wrestling or not, but Emo Night. So your thoughts on that on September 23rd? You're going to be in this neck of the woods here in New York City.
Yeah, man, I was happy to get the call when I saw that the GCW is doing Emo Fight. I was like, oh, finally one of their shows they have to book me for. They have to. I don't have to do anything, but it would be silly not to have Jimmy Jacobs, the Emo Warrior, at Emo Fight. So yeah, it'll be exciting. It's the Melrose Ballroom on September 23rd. You know, Impact's run from Melrose before. It'll be. You know, I know those GCW fans are great, and you know, Brett Lauderdale obviously has a great mind, has something pretty special in GCW. So I'm looking forward to collaborating with Brett and being in front of the fans and seeing what happens.
Awesome. No, definitely, and GCW definitely has something there. They definitely have created a surge over this last year and a half, and I feel like this is going to be a fun one. Emo Fight, I definitely will be there as well. So we'll get to speak hopefully in person for that as well.
Yeah. Look, the GCW for the past, you know, I was working for WWE when Joey Janela was doing the spring break thing. What was that, like 2017, like 4 years ago? Yeah, I dropped, like, me and Kevin come with me too. I think me and Kevin went together, but whatever. So they've been doing their thing and being hot for a while now. So yeah. Brett, Joey Janela, John Carlo, all those guys obviously have their finger on the pulse of what works. I mean, that company is it's a star-making company. You know, people that become hot there start to become hot everywhere. I mean, you know, Nick Gage was on AEW wrestling Chris freaking Jericho. You know,
who would have thought 2021 that was gonna be a main event? Like,
yeah, man. So
that's insane. Speaking of independent wrestling, have you gone to watch that a little more, or at least keep your eye on talent in that sense?
Not particularly. You know, I'm down here in Phoenix now.
Yeah.
Most of the companies stopped running, you know, last year, and so there's only like a couple companies down here. I worked for a company called Arizona Wrestling Federation. I had a match a couple months ago there. There's another one called IZW, and they had a show this past weekend. And I just dropped by and said hi. The promoter invited me to come and hang out, and I saw the guys, and man, I'm like, look, there's a lot of talented people out there. A lot of talented people on the independents. So I have no doubt that the independents, you know, a few years ago, man, they were hot and thriving. And of course, this last year and a half took a chunk out of that. And I think a lot of people were worried, you know, as WWE really pillaged all the independent wrestlers, that all the up and coming ones, that the indies wouldn't thrive. And then AEW came around and they took their bite out of it as well. But there seem to be a lot of talented people, and look, the market has completely changed over the last like few weeks, months here, with WWE announcing they're basically not gonna be scouting for independent wrestlers. You know, whether that sticks or not. Well, it'll stick as long as they want it to stick.
Exactly.
If there's somebody there that they want, it won't matter where they came from, and that's how it works. So an independent wrestler that's like discouraged, like, oh no, they're not hiring anybody under 30 and not hiring independent wrestlers. Like, yeah, man, those were the rules like years ago, back when I was trying to get hired by WWE in 05 and 06 or whatever, all that time as well. But then eventually things changed because they had to change. So it's only a rule until it's not.
Yep.
You know, what do you think? I'm in my 30s, an independent wrestler, but I'm freaking selling out places all around the United States, and WWE's gonna be like, we don't want to. Like, no, of course they will. If they can make money with you, they're not gonna care where you came from. But having said that, the market has changed a lot, so now it's going to be curious to see where it goes, independent wrestling, in the next year or so, as WWE has released a lot of people, and they're kind of staying away from independent wrestlers. As AEW's, they're pretty much filled to capacity now. They have a ton of wrestlers under contract, so I don't think they need to be taken too much. And so there's really now open spaces on the independents for guys to take some time in the independents and hone their craft and travel and there are going to be guys that are fresh off WTV that won't be at AEW or Impact Wrestling, and these independent wrestlers will be able to work with them too. So I can see a time where the independents can start to rebuild and flourish a bit without being picked off by all the top companies.
No, definitely. And I feel like that's what it's starting to again. It's starting to gain that traction. Like I want to say in 2015, like especially at least in the Northeast, there was like a buzz on indie wrestling. And that's when a lot of the signings I feel like started, especially with WWE going with the NXT roster. And now I feel like with this, there's a lot of guys coming back into the indies, circulating, and with the Forbidden Door aspect, I feel like it's not as much everyone looking to get signed, but making those journeys and doing those tours and trying to get everywhere they can, and it's making that statement, and it's changing the game that is wrestling now. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, definitely. I can agree with that because I feel like even sadly, a lot of the releases now, I think they were picked up right when they were about to make that mark. Like guys like Ari Sterling or Alex Zane back on the independents. I feel like he was just like at the tip of the iceberg when he was about to make it. And they picked him up quick. As a starter on the indie, yeah. On the indie. Yeah.
You go to WWE too early, it's like he did.
Yeah.
And he couldn't have been successful there because he would have if they had probably given them the chance and opportunity. But there's a difference between going in there like Alex Zane did, whenever he went there 6 months ago, 8 months ago, and going there like Adam Cole did a few years ago. Adam Cole debuted in the Barclays Center in front of a sold-out audience at NXT, and the whole crowd went nuts and chanted his name because he had more time in the oven. He had more time to make his star outside of WWE and not just have the knowledge and ability, but also the fan following that when he showed up there, it was a big freaking deal.
Yep.
And so when you go to WWE a little too early, you're leaving that in their hands. You're leaving that in WWE's hands to go, well, I'm not a star yet. Hopefully you'll make me a star. As opposed to making yourself a star over here, and then you just get to walk in and be a star. much better way to do it.
Yeah. No, and that's definitely, it's been seen, especially to mention like guys that have gone from Impact Wrestling and made their way over there, like MSK, who again, as the Rascals, were worldwide known for a while, getting to be champions in other locations, now NXT Tag Team Champions, and I feel like luckily for them it worked out.
Yeah, I haven't seen their stuff in NXT, so I don't know how the reaction was when they showed up,
Yeah.
or the accept or anything. I'm happy for those guys. I loved having them in Impact. Freaking love those guys. Talented dudes, good dudes, and I was thrilled when they got the opportunity to go and perform in NXT, and whatever happens for them, they'll be better off because of it.
Yeah, awesome. But how about for yourself? Would you want to put your hat back into a little more in the independent circuit, or are you kind of happy with what you're doing at the moment with?
I'll always come and put on my tights if somebody calls. I still love performing. I do. Having said that, I am so grateful that I don't have to, make a living as a professional wrestler anymore. I mean, I don't miss the hustle of the independence, and I wouldn't want to perform at the level of some of this higher up stuff. Look, everybody's so good now, and they're so talented and so athletic, and it's not what I do, and it's not really what I enjoy doing. Even though I was in Ring of Honor, like, I didn't enjoy, like, that wasn't my cup of tea. My cup of tea is wrestling for CWE in Canada, for Danny Duggan, wrestling 30 nights in a row, traveling little towns every day from the east side of Canada to the west side of Canada and back. Like, that's what I love doing. I love house show wrestling. That's what I love.
Gotcha.
I like doing my yay boo. I like the few bits I do. I don't want to be on TV every week having to think of like, oh, what's this new thing I can do to, like, that's not where my interest in wrestling ever really lied, of the physical innovation of the moves and the reversals, and I like performing and using the drama of the fight to tell the story, but to me it was never much about the moves. And nowadays it's not wrong, it is more about the moves. And that's okay. Look, people say it's not about the moves. It's like, well, it is some. I mean, it is some insofar as anybody who's over at all now knows how to freaking go in the ring. The days of two big guys just lumbering around as a main event, it's like that's pretty much over. Even two guys in the main event now, there has to be excitement to it. So, I'm, like I said, I would always, if a promoter emails me, Jimmy@jimmyjacobs.com, and says, hey, Jimmy, you want to come? I'd be like, heck yeah, I want to come. But I have no aspiration to do it as a full-time living, or work my way up the ladder, or like the idea of wrestling at NXT. Just that's something that sounds awful to me. Absolutely. I'd be a manager somewhere. I would do that.
Yeah.
Not wrestling.
Gotcha. How about at Impact? Would you do a match ever there if they would tell you, hey, for a minute, get out of the writing desk and do something in ring, with?
Well, I'd still have to write.
Oh.
but if there was a spot that made sense for me, even now, like I said, I'm more interested in. I was a manager at Impact with Congo Kong for the first, maybe like 10 months or so that I was there, 9 or 10 months. And I love doing that. If there was a spot that I saw that I would fit well, I would do that. But, I'm on the creative. The creative has nothing for me. And as far as that goes, which say I'm not going to force myself into anything ever.
Yeah.
There's sense itself and goes, yeah, that would be best for the show. I would love to do anything. I would come in for a small wrestling thing if it made sense, but I can't imagine the scenario where I need to put on tights at Impact.
Gotcha. No, I had to ask because, again, as a fan of yours, it's like maybe there's a possibility. But again, if it were to happen, would be awesome. But I'm glad to hear.
I don't know that dude just fine. So don't know if I need to be in there.
Awesome. Do have to ask though, could we possibly see you ever bring back the podcast of yours? Going to put up the graphic there of Jimmy Jacobs Doesn't Know, because you have you're great at storytelling here and having the podcast style voice.
Yeah, I probably will. I've been talking to my friend about me and her doing one together because I liked doing it.
Yeah.
I like talking to people about the things I like talking to people about. I like talking about the nature of our existence and like what the heck is it that where the heck are we, man? Like, what is this place? Who are we? What should we be doing here? These are the questions that fascinate me.
Yeah.
And I like talking to people about it, and so I might again do something in that nature here in the next few months, perhaps.
Awesome, love to hear. Because again, I was a fan of your podcast. Like some of my favorites were yours with JT Dunn, who I actually will be having on the podcast in the next 2 weeks. So can't wait.
Right.
So
yeah.
JT was a great one. Yours with Brian Danielson, and especially the one with Mark Mara. That one to me was a great convo to hear. So definitely, guys, the link will be down below if you want to check the archives. And again, stay tuned. You could be hearing Jimmy Jacobs on a podcast again in the future, to be determined.
Yeah, it's interesting to talk to people who have been down the road or their own version of the road that I'm going down. We get so wrapped up in this reality and whatever this is. It's some sort of game. Yeah. We're in some sort of weird virtual reality type game right now. We get so wrapped up in the game we're in, and maybe we're supposed to. Maybe that's part of it is to get wrapped up in it and to lose yourself in it. But when you stop and pause and go, wait a minute, where am I? What am I doing? What am I even trying to get to? Why do I keep just running this way as if there's something over there? What, hold on. What am I supposed to do? Why do I even want to get over there?
Yeah.
What's over there? And examine that and examine those questions. I find that fascinating. I think it's fascinating to talk to people about, how they do that and how they maneuver through reality in the optimal ways. I think that's fun and worth exploring.
No, it definitely is. It definitely is. And I think with that's why, again, like I told you when we spoke before, that mindset, that style, it intrigues me to the point that, again, I want to hear those answers. I want to hear what other people's perspectives are on that, because, again, I have my own. I told you, I started on that journey now because, again, I can admit I'm still very young at my age. I'm still 23. But I'm starting to figure out, hey, there are things we should explore and start to listen to our own selves of, this is why I want to be happy, and these are things that maybe aren't as important as it seems in a moment. That's
look. You should always listen to yourself because you're the decider of your world. We live in a free will universe, and I can debate people whether we have free will or not. We do. If we don't have free will, it's it's just an illusion. It's it's all the illusion. It's fine, you have the illusion of free will, which operates exactly as though you have free will. It's try to not have free will for a second. Go ahead. You can't not operate as though you have free will, so maybe it's inbuilt into the fabric of this reality. But, man, look, we all have a free will.
Yep.
And at the end of the day, that means that you decide for you. Does that mean don't listen to anybody? It means no. You get to choose who you listen to and not. There are plenty of people, the majority of the people on this world, where I don't care what they do. You know, I care what I do and what is moral and right for me. It doesn't mean I'm a psychopath, though I don't care about them as such. It just means my life, I'm the decider. And if somebody else has an opinion of how I should operate or how I should think or the information I should have and work off of, it's like, that's fine. But at the end of it, none of them are deciding. I'm deciding. I can't not decide. So often when we try to outsource our free will by going things, well, these are just the rules. Yeah. These are the rules. It's like, no, dude. There's just you. That's it. We have no rulers as such. We're all, and it's self-evident by the fact that we're free will individuals, free will beings. So you don't have to take anybody's view into consideration. You can take everybody's view into consideration, but at the end of the day, everybody makes their own choice. So you should, all that to be said, is that you should listen to you. Now the question is, who's the you you're listening to? Because it's like there's a freaking committee inside of each of us, and there's a voice for everything that's going, yeah, you should do this. Absolutely, don't do that. Yeah, but can't we just be lazy today? It's like, let's go. You know that's what's best for you. Yeah, but can't you just be lazy today? Like, hey, you know, like you've just got all these voices inside of you, and it's trying to figure out, you know, what do you ultimately want to, and do what you think is best for you, which is something like you in the aggregate, balanced with you in the now.
Yeah.
Right? It's like, what's going to be good for me now, and what's going to be good for me in the long term, and learning from those choices to go, okay, I did this before and I know the results. That just, you know, if I sit on my couch too much and order food in and watch TV, I'm just going to keep sitting on my couch watching TV and ordering food, and that's going to take me down here. And eventually when I go down there, all of a sudden I wake up one day and go, oh, I'm depressed. And okay, so maybe right now in this moment, I can choose a choice that in a month from now will lead somewhere other than a place I've already been. And so it's figuring that out inside of us. And I think we have something innate inside of us that more or less tells us the right thing to do. We can call that a conscience.
Yep.
It's, you know, and I think we all mostly know most of the time, but we get wrapped up in a lot of stories out here, and we get wrapped up in a lot of emotions as well. And it's hard to pick out sometimes our conscience from our emotions. And that's why it's important to sort of sort through your emotions as well. It's really, this journey here in life is a journey of self-discovery. Yeah. It's a journey of discovering why you do the things you do, and learning to control yourself to consciously choose what you do, as opposed to having your subconscious choose it for you.
No, definitely. I can definitely agree with that. And again, guys, I hope you're taking notes on all this, because it definitely is something you have to consider and definitely start looking into. Because again, this is something we need, that assistance in our journey of finding ourselves. Because it definitely is. Once you can find yourself, I feel like that makes it a little more easier to find what it is that makes you, in a sense. So,
for sure.
Yeah.
And it's where you are at that point in time in that moment, and the you that you think you are constantly changes. You know, which should probably say something about the nature of what we really are.
Mm-hmm.
Because who we think we are is just kind of this thing that keeps evolving, and I'm not the same me as I was yesterday, as I was a week ago, as I was a year ago, as I was back when I was 5 years old. This thing keeps moving. You know, if you listen to the conversation with me and Sami Zayn on my podcast, we talk about this a lot. And I'm in a way different place than I was 2 years ago when we had that conversation. But that was a conversation of like, is there something inside of us that is eternally us, or are we ever changing things? And if there is something inside of us that's eternally, you know, there's something inside of me that's eternally me, what is that thing? And yeah, it's a fun thing to think about.
No, definitely is. And it's something, again, even like you said, we definitely are evolving and changing. I can say in this last hour, a lot of my mentality is changing here. Just hearing what you're saying and hearing that after this discussion, it's like, again, it's always going to be changing. It's always going to be like those wheels turning in a sense.
Well, don't listen to what I say. I mean, who cares? That's the whole point. It's like everything I've said. It's like, who cares? Like, you can choose to care or not care.
Yeah.
Like, that's the thing. Everything I'm saying, I want the best for everybody. But at the end of the day, all it is, everybody listening right now, is just information. It's just information. It's neutral information. You don't need to be mad about it. You don't need to be happy about it. You don't need to be anything about it. You can just look at it and go, huh, that's interesting. I can discard this. I can take all of it. I can take some of it. I can take none of it. It's just information. And as soon as we start to interact with the world with a little more neutrality and going, oh, what Jimmy Jacobs is saying isn't an attack on me or the way I view myself or the way I view my reality. He's just speaking from his perspective. You go, yes, we're all just living from our perspective.
Yeah.
Exactly.
No, definitely. I feel like that would be a lot more of a peaceful world if that was the case. But sadly, that is a whole nother discussion with how.
Yeah, we need more. My perspective. We need to respect people's free will. The law of the universe is something like do no harm. That's it. That's all it is. It's like, don't initiate violence. Don't steal from somebody. Other people's stuff is their stuff, and that goes for their body, their property, and look, there's a little more complexity when you get down to how it operates. But when you understand that's the natural law of this world is initiate no harm, then it doesn't matter what you think. If you disagree with me and you have words that somehow I don't like your words, it's like, it doesn't matter. Instead of spending so much time, being offended by words, how about who cares what anybody says?
Yeah.
And they can say whatever they want and learn to not experience offense. Otherwise you're giving people that power. If you say, these words are offensive to me, if you call me a jerk, I'll be offended by that. All I've done there is then given you power. I've gone, hey, Ray, you have the power to offend me now if you call me a jerk. You have that power. So I suggest a way to deal with it is go, okay, call me a jerk. It's fine. It doesn't matter. That's something you're doing. It has nothing to do with me. It's noise your mouth is making, your vocal cords are making, or it's vibrating through the air, and my ears are picking up. My brain's interpreting it as these symbols that represent a concept. They go, who cares?
Yep.
Does that do damage? No. Are words violence? Hell no, they're not. But yeah, that's my tangent.
Oh, there you go, guys.
It comes down to taking your power back.
Yeah.
From things that you give to. Stop giving people strings and allow them to play you, and stop projecting power into external people and things that you need to grab and take because you think those things will fill you up, because they can't fill you up because you're already full. You're already complete. You don't need anything or anybody to be complete. You are complete and whole. You are enough and you are love. And that is what I wish for humanity and every individual in it to know, that they are whole and complete just by their very existence. It is the nature of what we are.
That is awesome. That is awesome. And Jimmy, I don't want to take up any more of your time here, so I just have one final topic here I always ask everyone, and that is, what is their end goal? So for you, for your choice, what is your end goal here?
My end goal?
Yep.
To use whatever gifts and talents I have to be of most benefit to the whole, while expanding my consciousness and letting go of the attachments I have to this world and to the ego, to ultimately transcend into infinity. Pah! But
Wow.
that'll happen.
That's the most intriguing answer I've gotten for that question. Usually how a lot of this does with wrestling, it's like, oh, to give back or to have this certain contract or something like that. That was just, wow, mind-blowing. That's amazing. Thank you again, Jimmy. Where can they find you if they do want to search you up on these social media webs here?
Yeah. I'm on Instagram for now. Jimmy Jacobs X. I don't know how much longer I'm going to be on it or not. I've got my Facebook and Tinder or Twitter. Find me on Tinder. My Twitter deactivated, but my website JimmyJacobs.com is always up. I don't really update it. If that has all my contact information on it and podcasts and things like that.
Yep.
So JimmyJacobs.com.
Guys, the links will be in the description down below as well for the website, for his pro wrestling tees, for the Instagram account. So again, follow. Definitely want to see everything this man is doing because again, if you have listened to this episode, you can see how interesting and intriguing he really is. And again, support Impact Wrestling as well. But Jimmy, thank you so much for joining us. This has been an amazing conversation. And guys, don't forget, if you also are a fan of the podcast, next week we'll be joined by the aerial artist himself, Zenshi, for episode 7. That would actually be Wednesday. Sorry, not next week. Next week, actually, we'll be joined by LSG. And just announcing this today, special announcement here, I'll be joined by Deshaun Pratt, formerly known as Amasis of the Osirian Portal. So, Jimmy, thank you so much for joining. Truly has been an amazing conversation. Thank you again, and have a good one, sir. And to everyone, don't forget, guys, be wise, be genuine, be real, be better people. As always, follow the